Yeah, it's always Hawk season here. Watched that Wisconsin-Purdue game, pretty fun. And the Penn State game was awesome today.
I
Penn
saw the
State, Illinois.
scoreboard.
Yeah, 9 overtimes. Man, they look like the Broncos offense out there. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It is Saturday night and not a football game tomorrow, which means a little bit of time to breathe and relax with Mile High Insiders. I'm Nick Kendell and joined as always on Saturday nights by Luke Patterson. Luke, how you doing?
Not good, Nick. Not good
Oh,
at all.
no.
4 straight losses. I mean, I'm happy to be here with you and MHI and ladies and gentlemen, Nick Kendall. I see you putting in overtime on the mic. I see you in the mornings. I see you in the evenings. I see you on Friday nights now. I caught some DVD last night. So, man, you're all over it. This is going to be a venting session for me, and maybe you could be a little more therapeutic since you've had a couple times to digest what happened on Thursday night. But all things considered, man, I'm doing well. It's Saturday night. He is Nick Kendall. I'm Luke Patterson. You are listening to Mile High Insiders. Let's say what's up to some folks. Dylan Von Arks, our guy, does a lot of work for us behind the scenes. We really appreciate you, Dylan. Mohammed Badri as well. Good to see you. And before I go too much further, I want to say what's up to Nathan L. Nathan Nick got in the comments section and so generously donated not only his time, but some of his hard-earned cash and saying, good evening, everyone, before we even go live. That's the type of energy that I need to get me through the rest of this season, Nick.
Yeah, no, we needed some positive energy, positive vibes. Obviously, we still got a lot of season to go, but Broncos will hopefully keep fighting out there, right? And 3-4, the season's not over yet. We'll find out. But thank you very much, Nathan. Good to see you. We got Donald's in the house. Jay Kozad, of course, is in the house. Good to see you. Mike Woodward saying evening to everybody. Great to see you. Jamie's in the house. Is Weatherly any good? We'll get to that trade here pretty soon. Todd is also in the house. A lot of familiar faces. Mac 85 City, of course. Death by Inches. We have been getting beat by miles and nothing is going to change. Things will change, hopefully, one day, but I don't know if today's the day, even though Woody Page got duped last night. Pretty funny. But
what happened? What happened with that?
It was a burner, not a burner, but a fake Mike Kliss account. And the guy wrote it very much like Mike Kliss would, saying that Shermer and Fangio were going to step down, and Kliss saw it and ran with it, and he got duped. So check your sources, folks.
No,
even the best
really?
get duped.
So that happened to Mike. So that happened to Mike a little bit earlier, maybe about a month ago. And he had to get his Twitter and everything back. So it's happening again, man. That is absolutely crazy. I did not catch that.
Oh yeah, Woody Page. It was a big funny joke yesterday. So
oh man. Well, you know what? That ties into, the Denver media versus the Denver media. I had tweeted out earlier. We're all a bunch of puppy dogs when you get us together. So we might seem tough behind that keyboard, but I assure you we are anything but. What's going on, Mike? It's good to see you. Stu McPeak, friend of MHI since the very beginning. I appreciate you. Paul, 800-26. Good evening. And Broncos country, you guys are watching Mile High Insiders. He's Nick Kendall. I'm Luke Patterson. Get at us on Twitter at MHI_pod. You can find Mile High Huddle on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. If you'd like to get to Nick, slide into his DMs, if you will. That's at Nick Kendall MHH. If you want to get yourself a nice MHI hat, maybe a Building the Broncos hat, Dove Valley Deep Divers, Huddle Up, Broncos for breakfast. We have all kinds of merch that you can find at huddleuppod.com to get your swag on. Guys, we really appreciate the support over on Facebook as well. That's facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. You can become an official supporter of Mile High Huddle. And Nick, if you become an official supporter of Mile High Huddle, there's a lot of benefits for you. One of the things that I love the most, milehighhuddle.com, the best written video content that you can find out there. We are not subscription based. We are not going to charge you any fees. Come on over 12 million reads already.
Yeah, guys, and obviously there's a lot of benefits for being a part of the Mile High Huddle family and contributing, and everybody getting in their stars and super chats and super stickers and everything like that has a chance to win probably one of the best players on this Broncos roster, one of the most valuable players, and a jersey that would have some staying power, some value over the next 5 years. Patrick Surtain, the second jersey. So we were at 61% of our star goal, which is $250,000, which is a heck of a lot of stars. And they're coming on in. So make sure you get your stars in over on Facebook so we can get there and get that Patrick Surtain jersey out. Randy Jones is coming in number 1 still. Josh Hoyle right behind him. Good friend of ours, Lawrence Rivera there. Then Michael Ronquillo, who's always positive for us. Shane Daniels commenting on YouTube and Facebook. Mama Moody there at 6. Andrew Lampy, always super supportive. Peter Middleton over in Cambodia. Travis Weber, hopefully Travis will join us tonight. Good to see him as always. Andrew Baker, Doug coming in there at 11. So those are our Facebook guys obviously coming in. And also you can get in the super chats over on YouTube. Our top people here, Mark from Georgia, go Dogs. Always want to give him a shout out. Michaela Parker. We got Christy, of course. Naj is always super supportive coming in. Seth Harmon, Chris Hernandez, DW96734, Brian Greenfield, Aaron Lynch, and Shane Daniels, of course. Stu McPeak, we saw you in here. You're number 11, but number 1 in our hearts. We love you, Stu. So make sure you guys are getting those in. And again, there's maybe not the Broncos team, obviously 3-4, right? 4 losses in a row. They're not star-studded across the board, but if there's any jersey right now, if I was investing in, if I could pick one player, and I think that jersey's going to have some staying power, it's probably Patrick Surtain II, who had a pretty darn good game against Cleveland. A couple missed tackles, but dude belongs. And man, what drip! I wish I could look like Patrick Surtain out there, man. He's a good looking cornerback.
Yeah, no, he's a great corner. I'm pumped to hear Champ Bailey gushing all over himself over him.
Yeah,
I know he's made some mistakes, guys, and we're gonna get to that a little bit too. But PS2 is playing extremely well for a rookie, just like we thought he all would. Good luck to everybody out there at MHH. My daughter the other day, Nick, we had this conversation on Thursday Night Football. She's like, "I'm ready for a new Broncos jersey," and I'm starting to rack my head. There's not a lot of Broncos that I would buy a jersey for my child right now. I mean, there's not a lot of Bronco gear being sold right now. Times are tough, man, but we're here to get you through it. We are here to make it better. Just like our guy Lights Out Highlights. Appreciate you so much. A $2 super. Nick, why do Broncos fans want Drew Lock over Teddy? This is a fascinating question. Lights Out, appreciate it. Get the show going. Talk about getting the ball rolling. This is going to get the ball shoved off the cliff. Nick, why is Drew Lock's name coming up over and over again after 4 straight losses?
Well, people like the unknown and the possibility of potential more than, what they have already. Grass is always greener on the other side. We had that whole offseason after Drew Lock and the Broncos went 4-1 during that 5-game stretch in 2019 where it was hyped up, Drew could be this franchise quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. Second year, investing all these players. I mean, you bring in a top 5 paid guard, top 10 paid running back, 2 wide receivers in the first round. This offense is locked and loaded, and locked struggles last year, no doubt about it. So a lot of people still are clinging on to that hope just because they think that he can get to this next level, but no guarantees there. Obviously, I mean, we had people also pining for just a similar example. Justin Strnad this offseason, like, oh, replace Josie Jewell, put Justin Strnad in there, blah, blah, blah. Not looking so good so quickly here this season. So I think it's just the promise and the potential of the unknown, even though most of the time that doesn't pay off like you'd hope.
I'd co-sign everything you said there and add another thing. I wrote about it in my Keys to Victory this past week on milehighhuddle.com that the Broncos did not utilize, but Drew Lock was healthy. Man, it bothers me. I get it. Vic Fangio loves Teddy Bridgewater. He doesn't like Drew Lock. It is what it is. But if you're telling me that Teddy, who can't even, walk, feel his foot, anything like that, at what I heard a good friend on the air last night say 75%. It's like, no. He wasn't 75%. Let's be honest. He was probably a little bit more like 50 if we're being generous. And a healthy Drew Lock, I mean, it just seems stubborn. It seems it bothers me. It really does. What really, I don't know, annoys me a little more is when I hear, well, let's see what Drew's got. We already know what Drew's got. So I don't want Drew Lock to play for that. I want Drew Lock to play because he's the healthy guy right now. That's what backup quarterbacks are for. And Fangio's not even using his backup quarterback that they've invested 3 seasons into now.
Yeah, and we got Andrew Lampy coming in here real quick. He says, happy Saturday. Hope everyone had a wonderful day. Hope you had a wonderful day, Andrew. It's been a pretty good one so far over here. We do have a bomb cyclone or something coming into Seattle tomorrow, so that should be interesting. And always interesting. Mohammed Badri rocking the profile picture there with Little Malik. Good to see you. It's good to see you, Mohammed. It's always great to see you. Braun and the Smooth Killer in the house. Great to see you. We also got Jason Spivey in the house, or Spivey coming in with the stars. So thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks, Jay.
Back to Drew Lock, I totally agree with you about if it was, this close competition and Teddy Bridgewater is that injured, I don't see how you can't go to Drew Lock. I know that it's a short week and it's hard to make that transition on the short week, but you are going up against a very good pass rush. I mean, even though I don't even know if he got home, but Myles Garrett was getting held like every play and dominating. I mean, a player that good impacts your game plan and what you can do and just everything offensively. And I guess, they did decent against him, as good as you possibly can do. Sure. But Drew maybe can bring you more of a spark, score you some points. And I keep coming back to this, the turnover in the red zone or like the 25 to go from Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, you brought in Teddy to not have that play happen for that exact reason, because that's how Drew Lock killed you last year, taking points off the board with turnovers like that. If Teddy's doing it, then, I mean, why are we playing him? So I think we will see Teddy another 3 weeks leading up to the bye week. And if the Broncos are still struggling, that'll be the time to make the move. But until then, probably still going to be the Teddy show. And hopefully the Broncos can get on the right path against the Washington football team.
The Teddy Show. The Teddy Show hits Von Miller's Halloween party before we get back to football. That's, of course, coming up this Monday. The players should be getting some rest. I hope Teddy is off of his feet and healing and feeling better. But Collection Connection, good evening. Thank you for joining Nick and I on MHI. We really appreciate your support. Weighing in to answer that previous super chat, why fans are clamoring for Drew Lock. Because Teddy cannot win. He cannot make a first down. Drew Lock still did as good as Teddy in his first year. Teddy brings the team down to his level. Whoa. Collection Connection. Here's what I'll say about that. I love that you're calling your shot. You believe what you believe. That's your truth. And you're sticking to it. And do not ever change, because sometimes I think people, their opinions are so swayed as to what's popular and what's not. Here's what I would say to that real quick. Teddy's a team captain for a reason. And it's not because Vic Fangio just picked him out. I was there every single day at training camp. Still checking with sources here and there. Teddy is beloved in that locker room. Nick, what do you know about Teddy Bridgewater and what he means to that locker room? Because here's the only thing I have a real big beef with that is I'm not going to get after the first down comment. I'm not even going to get after the he cannot win comment. It said he brings the team down to his level. Well, his level was pretty damn tough the other night, and he can get up there and not make excuses. If there's a healthy Teddy Bridgewater that can fully step into that throw, that interception throw, I'm not so sure it is a pick. Cortland Sutton, if you hang up on that safety just a little tighter and make him bite, I'm not so sure. So a lot of things come into play, and I know I sound like an apologist for Teddy Bridgewater right now, but I just know he's beloved in that locker room.
He is a team leader. A lot of the weapons and the offensive players respect him. I mean, obviously, they're going to toe the company line when the microphone's in front of them about either quarterback, but it does sound like Teddy is the one that has the attention leadership of the still relatively young offense. And something I do want to see before we're ready to bury Teddy, or anybody's ready to bury Teddy, I want to see what this offense looks like with Jerry Jeudy back out there. I think that the games have been close enough, and Teddy has not been totally killing you. And this offense specifically, it needs a guy who can uncover quickly in those one-on-one matchups that Shermer likes to dial up. He doesn't really scheme guys open. He schemes guys into situation where they can win their one-on-one matchup. And all respect to Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, they're more slow developing down the field players versus the type can get uncovered immediately. And that should help the offense a lot these next few weeks. And again, if the Broncos lose lose 2 of the next 3, I'm gung-ho. Get Drew Lock ready for after the bye week, and let's see what he has, because you have another year of control. And what would the Broncos be at that point? 4-6? I mean, your season's probably over at that point. Then it would be time to move on. And if Fangio says he's not doing it, then as far as I'm concerned, I think Peyton needs to come down and say goodbye, because you need to figure out what you have there. And Teddy, obviously, even if it's not totally his fault, the formula's changed. The defense hasn't been good enough around him. The offensive line isn't good enough around him. You need to see if that other quarterback can raise those guys where Teddy hasn't so far.
Nothing's been good enough in Broncos country. Y'all are pissed, and I hear you. I'm pissed. This is not what we grew up. It's so maddening to me as a father to explain to my child, my 8-year-old daughter, this is not what it was like when I was growing up. This is not what it was like, 6 years ago, Nick. I mean, the standard is gone. Ownership is gone. This team is run by a trust, and you're seeing the same thing time and again. But I appreciate you, Nick. I appreciate Broncos country, because here at MHI, we want to hear you guys sound off. How do the Broncos get things back on track? And what is the biggest problem with the Denver Broncos? We already talked a little Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock. I want to hear y'all continue to weigh in. And speaking of weighing in, Aaron Lynch with us since the beginning as well. Thank you so much for joining Nick and I on MHI. And Aaron Lynch is weighing in with a generous super, saying the Denver Broncos are not making a run this year. That's tolerable if we use the season to, quote, experiment, for lack of a better term. Tried the different things. Try Drew Lock. Find progress, and I'll be happy. Cheers, fellas. We appreciate it, Aaron. Nick, go ahead and react to that sort of mentality, because that's a little more realistic if you're a George Payton and you're trying to figure out how you're going to ride the rest of this year. Do you want to grade and evaluate, something you and I talked about a little earlier today, or find some silver linings on how we go ahead?
Well, right now, going ahead, will have to be hanging your hat on this rookie class. We talked about already. Patrick Surtain. He's going to have to get a little bit better in the tackling side of things, but he's been playing good, looking really good in coverage. Hopefully, we can see some more Quinn Miners going forward. I know we were very trepidatious to overhype him early on, but like the small sample size has been really good. Javonte Williams looks good. Get more Caden Stearns, Jonathan Cooper out there. That's what I think the right direction, and I think what Aaron is getting at there. Experiment with things. I don't know if like fully experiment, don't implement a brand new type of defense where it's hard to get mid-season. But get some of those younger guys in there, rotate, see if you can find anything for the future to build on. And we got Mark Lindemode coming in here saying, howdy, Nick and Luke and the rest of Broncos country. Howdy to you, Mark. Always awesome to see your picture, your cute little doggo there. And thanks for joining us tonight. We also got Wendell Williams coming in. Can we please trade a 4th or a 3rd round pick for Roquan Smith? Not too much to ask. Someone send that to George Payton, please. I'll let him know, but I got to say, I think the Bears would leave you on red for that kind of pick. Roquan's playing great football right now, and that's part of it. The other part is, can the Broncos afford to move on from any capital when you don't have the quarterback position set for the immediate future?
Nick, who needs Roquan Smith when you've got Stephen Weatherly?
Yeah. What a
Talk about
transition.
talk about transition and executing some trades for George Payton. That's the news of the day, Broncos country. The Denver Broncos have acquired outside linebacker Stephen Weatherly via trade with the Minnesota Vikings. Familiar, shocker. In exchange for a 2022 7th round pick. Now, with Stephen Weatherly comes a 2023 7th round pick. So basically, they're getting themselves an outside linebacker, a pass rusher, and a 7th pick. They had to also place inside linebacker Micah Kaiser, another inside linebacker, down on IR with a groin injury. Nick, what are your initial impressions of Stephen Weatherly and what this trade means for the Broncos?
The Broncos, they needed a response in this game. Obviously, you have Mintz on IR. There's another edge rusher on the back end who went on IR. And Von Miller, the ankle injury now. Bradley Chubb, how's he going to be when he comes back? And arguably the least effective guy who you're how do I put this? The guy that you are going to see the most snaps from going forward on this team that was disappointing, not like Curtis Robinson at linebacker. He's not going to play. It's unfortunate that he was out there. But Malik Reed, he's somebody you're depending on. He was god awful in that Browns game. So bringing in Weatherly maybe helps you a little bit on the edge against the run, and you can't be, or you won't be as targeted there going forward. Because make no mistake about it, the Browns targeted Reed, and they went after him, and they found great success.
So Weatherly, Nick, he's a 6-year player from Vanderbilt. He spent the first 4 seasons of his career in Minnesota, and then he played 1 year with the Panthers in 2020. Eventually came back to the Vikings in 2021. So 64 career games, 87 tackles, 20 quarterback hits, 15 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. So 2 forced fumbles, also 1 pass defended. So he's a veteran player. Stats aren't anything to write home about. I'll be honest, I do not know a lot about Stephen Weatherly, of course, other than his bio. I'll be curious to check him out a little bit. But the Broncos need help, Nick, and it does make you wonder about Von Miller. Von, of course, said he felt he could have toughed it out, but he's trusting the Broncos medical staff. And I've heard the argument, I've talked about it as well. Teddy's playing, but Von said he felt good and didn't want to go back in. There's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories there too. NFL trade deadline looming. We can go down that wormhole. But Nick, do you think Von is a little bit more hurt than he let on? Just pure speculation because of this trade. And hang on, Josh, we are going to get to you.
Do I think that Von's a little bit more injured than he let on? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, so this move, I think, for Stephen Weatherly being brought in, I mean, it makes sense, but it also does make me wonder, like, okay, does Von need a little bit of rest? Does Von need to heal up a little bit? And I'm not saying, go on IR, but I'm wondering, can he take a week off? Can we make this a long kind of second bye, if you will, for the Broncos?
You also, it could be that. I definitely think that could be part of it, is getting Von, make sure he's healthy. But could you also for me, this also made me wonder if this team is preparing itself for maybe a moving of Von Miller at the trade deadline. I mean, you have a guy now that can come in and that you're a little bit more confident. You gave up not a lot, a 2022 second for the player and a 7th for a 2023 7th plus the player. But you're going to have Chubb coming back. Breed has been up and down. Cooper, okay, but I think that this might be a move, especially since you're trading picks, not just a guy that you're just going to let go. And maybe you see a vision for him with Chubb coming back. How do you have snaps for that kind of guy? It's if you're moving on from Von Miller. So I think that it's a possibility. Obviously, there's locker room ramifications for that, but it also might be something where it's seen as a a goodwill move towards Von Miller as well. We respect you. We love you. We're going to trade you a team where you can be a contender and go to the playoffs for the first time since 2015. And, hopefully you can be in the Ring of Fame. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just know that if you're trading that kind of pick, I don't think you're planning on just shuffling him on and off the roster here. Otherwise, you could have just found somebody else.
Well, maybe that was a contingency plan for George Paton when he inked Von Miller. Hey, if he is playing well and the team's not, maybe we look at that route. Interesting. We will have to keep an eye on it. But Josh, you waited so patiently. Thank you so much for putting up with Nick and I and our word salad. Josh is weighing in saying the problem is this team has been trying to recreate 2015 for 6 years in a row with no signs of changing. Nick?
I mean, they have been changing. It's just been not good change, and sometimes maybe even change for the sake of change. It's tough out here in the AFC West right now. I mean, you got to give a shout out to the stability that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have brought to Kansas City. That's harder than early on for the road for the Broncos when they had Peyton Manning. The Chargers look like they've struck gold at head coach and quarterback going forward. So it's tough. I do want to say it's maybe a cliche, but the fish rots from the head down. So until the ownership situation is stabilized, I just feel like we're kind of tire spinning in mud. And I don't know exactly if we have very much positive forward momentum as an organization until that's squared away.
I see what you're saying there, Josh, and I like it. And I think Josh is trying to hit on the point of we're just going to win with stellar defense. It's okay when Peyton retires and rides off into the sunset, and our defense is so great that we're gonna keep rolling. Well, we drafted one first-round quarterback who's playing CFL on the bench, third string right now, and Paxton Lynch not going anywhere. I get it. Scared this organization off of drafting quarterbacks, that giant hit and miss. And you guys saw the graphics on Thursday Night Football. It's the Browns and the Broncos and the quarterback carousel. Well, the Broncos just got rolled by Case Keenum, and that was it was gnarly. It was the JV team that beat up on the varsity. It was absolutely horrible, and I'm still frustrated about it. And I think everybody else is as well. DJ also weighing in here, and DJ going after that PS2 jersey. Good luck, buddy. Appreciate the support. The coaches that everyone wants fired for their performances the last 2 to 3 years. It's been tough. Coaching turnover as well. It's just, and then you get the Justin Fields folks as well, saying you look at a PS2 who is playing well. You wonder what a lame duck year would have meant for a Justin Fields, at least getting his feet wet a little bit. So that argument is valid, and I think that we can have it, but it does get a little old at a certain point for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing of the what ifs, but you're here right now. You have Teddy Bridgewater who's injured and playing probably from a peripheral perspective about what you should have expected coming into the year. But the formula is not working because the defense it's been bottom 5 the last 4 weeks, which is shocking considering the investments they put in it. But with that, you have to change the formula. You then need more from your quarterback. So sorry, dude, you need more from Teddy too.
375 yards the last 4 games, each game. It's the first time since 2007 that the Broncos are giving that up. Where is this evil defensive genius that is able to grab onto these players and make them play for him? It's not working. It's just it's bizarre. Coach had a bizarre kind of attitude to him yesterday at the press conference. I don't know. We could get into that a little later, but let's get back to the comments, because Broncos country is ripping and rolling as they should be. They're passionate, Nick, and they're tired of losing. I don't blame them. Collection Connection coming in again. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much. It's always excuses for Teddy and blame for Drew. But Teddy's in his prime, losing to second and third stringers. He has 4 turnovers in a game. Hashtag lock for quarterback. I appreciate it, Collection. No, it's I hear you. I think a lot of folks, have been really tough on Drew, and deservingly so. But I will say this: I appreciate the way that he's handled his backup role until he went into that game against the Ravens. And you kind of heard the excuse of, well, I don't get many first team reps and stuff. I know, Drew, but neither do these other, second string quarterbacks. It's tough, but Drew's going to play at some point, and I think Broncos country should at least expect it.
Yeah, at some point you'll see him. And like I said, I think right now, if I was in charge of the Broncos, Vic Fangio and them, they got another 3 weeks to get it right. Then you have the bye week to really give the quarterback time for preparation and getting connection with the first team offense, et cetera, et cetera. That's the time point where I'm thinking if the season's not going well, that's where Locke comes in. We
And
got Andrew Baker coming in. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, and yeah, real quick before we get Andrew in, and you know what? I'm just gonna squash it right now. No, Deshaun Watson's not coming to Denver.
No.
No, Tua's not coming to Denver. Like, I get it. Last week there was
Yeah.
a busy week in the NFL, Nick, as you well know. But no, it's Teddy and Drew. But and Nick, I want to ask you this. I'll let you think on it, and maybe you can answer a little bit later in the show. But why is Brett Rippon on this team? Why is he an active member on this team? I mean, had a chance to go to Houston. He didn't want to go. Broncos didn't want him to go. So we're just going to activate him and let him just sit there and rot. I don't get it. I don't get it. But let's get to Andrew because maybe he'll make me feel a little bit better.
For sure. Andrew Baker coming in, one of our top star givers. Thank you so much, Andrew. It's always great to see you. What's up, Nick, Luke, and my Bronco brethren? Which is better, selling for picks or buying to keep playoff dreams alive? Hashtag Mile High Huddle for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life.
Great question.
What is better is buying to keep the playoffs alive, but sometimes you're not in the position to do that. Just as a general statement, I'd rather the Broncos, 5-2 right now, and buying to keep the playoff hopes alive and churning. But right now, I think the Broncos will probably sit on their hands until after the Washington football game. I believe it is a couple days after that, where it is the NFL trade deadline. So that's when you'll probably see the stuff happen. If the Broncos are 3-5 at that point, they should be selling and seeing what they can get. But I think you're going to get one more effort at home, another hurrah before this team and that kind of thing happens. But 10 days to prepare. We'll see. Washington football team. Denver's defense has been underperforming this year. Washington football team, same thing, man. Everybody thought these would be the best two teams and our best two defenses in football. Blah, not very good.
Not very good at all. And the defense has just been around average too. I think they're 16th in the NFL, the Broncos defense on third down. So middle of the pack. And that's just not good enough. Meanwhile, You look at the Broncos offense with Pat Shurmur in the NFL, dead last, third down, I think 29%, something like that. So it's just a lot of the same. And I hear you, Broncos country. We're extremely disappointed and frustrated as well. And here we go. I'm driving Scott crazy because I'm trying to click on all the comments. Donald weighing in as well. Donald, welcome to MHI and thank you for your support. We appreciate those stars. He said, I was/am very critical of Drew Lock. The difference now is that Drew is young in his career. Progression is a real thing. Nick, we talked about this a lot throughout training camp and stuff like that. We did see some improvement from Drew Lock, deservingly so. You saw mistakes as well, but you can't fault Drew Lock for improving. You got to give credit where credit is due. And, I would have played him. I would have played him against Cleveland. It's not because I'm a Drew Lock guy. It's because I think that's what backup quarterbacks are for. He's young and healthy and should have been studying. I think he has been. He doesn't have a work problem or an effort problem. That's never been a thing with Drew Lock. I think he cares immensely, but he needs a change of scenery. Anybody that's a Drew Lock fan right now, you should be rooting for the Broncos to trade him away. Because I think he needs a fresh start with a new team, and it'd be cool to see him actually get that start. Maybe it's with Detroit. They're over. But you look at them coming down the road. I think they played. Are they the Broncos at home or is it on a away game? Either way, it bothers me. I don't want the Broncos to be their first win if that's the case. And it's just desperation here in the Mile High City.
Yeah, it's rough and probably not going to be the season that we had hoped for, but you do have things you can hang your hat on, and I'm going to hang my hat on Naj coming in here and still supporting us, man. Every single show, every single one that I've been on this week, I feel like Naj has come in with his 1999. So God bless you, man. He says, hey, brothers, sadly, I've lost complete hope for this season and don't see any other wins for the balance of this season. I have to believe the players have lost faith as well. What, if anything, do you feel can change that? What can change that? Beating the Washington football team, right? I mean, confidence is a heck of a thing. If you can beat the Washington football team, things can start rolling that way. You have a lot of young players. You have Jerry Jeudy coming back, which could be, people were talking about Jerry Jeudy like he had a chance to be one of the more dynamic playmakers in football this upcoming season. And now you get him returning to the lineup. That might help a heck of a lot. So there's some things like that. Maybe it's a little bit of a far hope. You can also cling to the hope that maybe Drew Lock comes in and sparks things. So there is avenues for hope. How likely are they to happen? You're in a division where you have the worst quarterback no matter what you do. So it's going to be tough for you to really get beyond that. But still, there is reason for hope. And each game, you got to take them as a microcosm and look at them and see who can get better. And, we'll roll into this offseason and hopefully George Payton can have a better, clearer direction for this team going forward.
Yeah, I'm tired of the old guys on one-year deals. Kareem Jackson, I'm not impressed. with your performance the past few weeks. I'm really not, and I really respect and like Kareem Jackson, but let's just call it like it is. I've been giving Justin Simmons a ton of leniency because I think Fangio's been putting him in an awful position, but I can see a lot more from Justin Simmons. I know he got paid. I know he cares and is a hard worker as well, but it's just not good enough. Here's what I'll say. What can happen, and Naja, really appreciate the support. You've been with us since day one as well. What can change that? If Vic Fangio apologizes to this team, if he gives and relinquishes control to Ed Donatel, something he won't do, show a sign of humility in front of your players. I'm speculating that Patrick Smythe, our good old friend down at UC Health Training Center, and his fabulous PR team, and I'm not using any sarcastic tones because Patrick leads one of the best in the NFL. He talked to coach. I know he did. He had to have, based on how critical specifically me and other people on social media were after the post game, talking about the players. And yes, he did say we a few times. He said we a lot more yesterday, Friday after the game, something I think he was coached on to say a little bit, and used me a little bit, and trying to take accountability a little bit after the fact. But I'm just not so sure he gets it. I'm not so sure that he understands that he's losing this locker room. Maybe it's already lost. It is splintered. How do you get that back? You ask for forgiveness. It doesn't mean you're giving over your power, but you say, fellas, I'm going to prove to you that I'm going to be a good head coach. I'm not so sure Fangio is interested in that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with the direction this team is heading. I mean, we know there's been reports of safeties getting into it with Vic and defensive linemen, maybe some heated stuff, but those are all competitors out there. So it's not like it's, personal or anything like that. It's just guys that want to be put in a position to succeed and help this organization and help themselves out while doing it as well. Mike Woodward coming in saying Grandpa Vic ain't it. It's definitely trending that way. It's unfortunate. And, being a NFL head coach, it goes beyond the scheme. You got to get those guys to fall in line with you. I don't know if it's the same extent of like the cult of personality you see in college, but you still need those guys to all pull the same direction. And they got to have belief in you. And winning creates culture. Haven't seen that here. And the Broncos are trending down with Vic.
And it's about energy too. I mean, don't tell me that like 168-year-old Pete Carroll has, the energy of his actual age. I mean, that guy is so fired up for every football game, and I know there's only one Pete Carroll, and no, we don't need an energized guy running around here like Pete, but the respect that the players give him because they know that he's willing to go out there and go to bat for him, and he's earned those stripes. And Vic's got those pelts on the wall as a DC, but the wall's looking bare as a head coach. Shane Daniels weighing in real quick, and appreciate the support and love those stars, and appreciate you watching on Facebook as well. Saying, what's up, Luke and Nick? Is there any reasonable path to the playoffs in your mind? Nick, last week the Broncos lost, and we were all very upset when they went 500, and the Broncos still would have been in the playoffs. Now they're sitting at the bottom of the AFC West today, just because those games have not been played, those Game 7 games, until tomorrow. Nick, how did the Broncos get to the playoffs this year if they're going to turn it around?
Oh, man, how do they get the playoffs this year if they're going to turn it around? You need the defense to start playing like they are, that they should be. Maybe some of that is with Bradley Chubb coming back. Maybe some of that is with guys on the back end starting to communicate better and execute better, and pass rush, wherever that may be, showing up. So you want that, and the offensive line to start solidify. I mean, I know that you don't have any real big guys coming back, but if the offensive line can start playing a little bit better down to down, you see your rushing games start to get you, third and short rather than the 3rd and 8+ that we've seen pretty consistently this season. Those are means. And heck, maybe it's the Kyle Orton, Tim Tebow thing where the team is struggling. They make the change at quarterback just to say, it's like adding something to your soup. It's like, oh, this is a little flat. Let's throw some salt in there. I don't know. And energizes the team and can galvanize them to something. But the odds of that happening, I don't know. That's just kind of spinning the wheels. It's like the same thing with like a coaching change midseason. We're trying something to try something, and Lord knows if it'll work, but we got to do something.
Yeah, I thought that something was going to come yesterday. I thought that Vic was going to say, I'm relinquishing control. And even though he wouldn't be, that would have been someone else saying, hey, Vic, you need to do this. But George Paton is letting him kind of figure it out. I think if you're George Paton, you have to look at your reputation as a GM as well. He's got an excellent reputation in the scouting community and as an assistant, as a brass member in the NFL. But everyone's trying to figure him out as well. And that leads me into our next comment with Enki here, saying, now that we have a GM and George Paton, let's have some actual accountability. Man, that's tough because we're all looking at George Payton and we're trying to figure out what kind of GM he's going to be. We're starting to figure out and craft an opinion of what he likes to do in the draft based off of only 1 year, what he likes in free agency. But to me, Nick, it feels like George Payton has been extremely supportive of Vic Fangio, giving him a lot of resources on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean, they went in. I mean, you saw in the draft, even after they drafted Patrick Surtain, George Payton leaned back and smiled at Vic and saying, I got you your cornerback, or I got you your corners. So it's definitely, they went and tried to empower Vic this year, giving him no excuses to perform. And if not, probably moving on from him. I wouldn't say it's 1-for-1 of what they did with Drew Lock 2 years ago. I've already listed off all the things they did to empower Lock last season, but, that's, if they don't get it done, it falls on that person and you move on from there. So we'll see how much. And I don't know if you saw, I think it was Zach Stevens tweeted about, and I know that John Elway is still VP of football operations or something like that, but it sent a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth when I saw that Fangio had a meeting with the likes of Peyton and some other people and John Elway. It's like, I'm ready to close the book on John Elway as front office decision maker for Broncos.
Yeah, it was George Payton, it was John Elway, it was Joe Ellis. So
2 of the 3. Let's move forward, baby.
Well, especially with Joe Ellis, man. Like, we know he's got one foot out the door already. He told us that himself, and then he gets up and starts that press conference at the last January, the same thing that happened. This isn't good enough, and it's like, well, what is, fellas? Because I'm starting to wonder if you even realize that there's a problem. Are you so disconnected, and we're already in retirement? Because I agree with you. Why are we showing shots of John Elway? The GOAT of Denver, right? No, all due respect, and not George Payton. I thought George Payton was running this show. That's the guy we should be seeing on Thursday Night Football. But celebrity, GM, it is what it is. Timothy Cotton weighing in real quick, asking me, what have I heard about Drew Lock? Nothing. I've heard that he's not playing. Same as you. Can't figure it out, Nick. They teased us on Thursday Night Football. They showed some graphics, if you will, of Drew Lock warming up as if he was getting ready to go into the game. And it was frustrating to not see that because I'm not looking to figure out what Drew Lock has, but I think a healthy Drew Lock offers a lot of opportunities to this team.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's going to get a chance at some point, and hopefully one way or the other, we can have some clarity and resolution on what that means for the Broncos quarterback position, what it means for Drew Lock in Denver, and going forward. I mean, maybe the resolution or the outcome is, neither Teddy or Drew Lock are it. I think that's probably the most likely one. And we're looking for a new quarterback again this offseason, or somebody to compete with Drew Lock again. Mitchell Trubisky versus Drew Lock in 2022. Everybody sit down. Going to be super fun. But I had to get a little bitter dig in there. Maybe I would take Trubisky over Andy Dalton. But we got Michael Ronquillo coming in here saying, I heard that Tim Patrick was fined $15,000 against the Raiders for his penalty. Did you see that, Nick Luke, in Broncos country? Go Broncos. I did see that. It's unfortunate, but I mean, that's going to happen sometimes in football in that aggressive game.
Yeah, Tim's an explosive player. He's usually in control. The only problem I have with Tim Patrick was last year when he actually threw a punch in the Raider game on the road. Can't be doing that, but even then I was still kind of happy because I'm like, well, he's got some fight in him. I'm wondering what's going on with Tim Patrick. What's the future of Tim Patrick? Is it with Denver? I mean, are you guys working on something for Cortland? Because I'm not hearing anything. I mean, that might be the best kept secret, and that's something George Payton has done very good. I'll give him that. I don't know about you, Nick, but it's hard to get any information out of that building. It really is. It's like it's locked down tight. I don't even hear rumors. Usually start to hear something, but George Payton, he plays his cards pretty close to the vest. Tim Patrick, man, I would love for a deal to get done, right? Because I think it'd be affordable, but I'm not so sure if you're Tim Patrick that you want to deal with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, that's it's definitely true. I do got to ask you. Let's say the Green Bay Packers come calling and say, "Hey, we want Tim Patrick on our team." What are you taking for him?
A third rounder.
Third rounder.
I think that's realistic. I want, and I know Broncos country, it's going to light up. A first, a second. I know we love Tim Patrick that much. I'm not so sure the NFL loves Tim Patrick that much just because they don't know him yet, Nick. And he is an aging wide receiver. So I would hope for a third rounder, but man, that'd be tough. How about you?
I would take something the equivalent of a late third round pick. So it doesn't have
Okay,
to be exactly a third rounder, but it could be something like a
sure.
fourth, a sixth, and a future sixth, where you're
Okay,
getting some assets on the back end that gives you a little bit of flexibility to maybe be aggressive, moving up for a quarterback in a draft class, or trading some of those excess picks that you get for those got veterans on the back end of their deals that can help bolster some spots on your offensive or your across your roster. And we got Mark Lindemode saying Nick Kendell for head coach. I
love
don't know
it.
about that. The X's and O's are tough. I really enjoy playing the general manager role more so than the head coach role. But I mean, if the Broncos want to pay me and then fire me or whatever, and then I could sit off that for a couple years, maybe doing a bunch of hikes and fishing off some place in like Hawaii, that'd be okay with me. Go ahead and hire me, Broncos. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, those animals live a different life, those coaches, man, and so do the scouts. I love dipping my pool in the scouting community,
Hmm.
as much as anybody in the winter and the spring and travel and everything. But man, never will I ever be a scout, man. It's those guys live tough lives. These coaches live tough lives. There's a
Yeah.
reason they have heart attacks. There's a reason they don't
Oh,
sleep. There's a reason their families don't see them unless you're Bruce Arians, BA. By the way, what a BA is BA. I mean, like that guy, he's one of a kind, but
yeah.
it's not the way the NFL actually works. That's an interesting question, Nick. What would I? Yeah, you know what? Okay, if some late rounders, and if we can set a package together, because man, Tim Patrick and Aaron Rodgers, that sounds cool. That sounds exciting, and it might hurt us a little bit, but you got to wonder if George Payton's going to start doing some wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
Let's get to Jose Ramos, excuse me. Let's get Drew Lock some good coaching. He did great with Rich Scangarello. Pat Shervin is even, making Steady Teddy look not steady. Well, the ship's not steady when you don't run the ball and you panic every time you get behind. Something that
Yeah.
we saw Pat Shermer do once again. Nick, people are sick of Pat Shermer. They
Yeah.
want him out of Denver. Vic says that's his guy. He's been asked, once or twice the last 2 weeks, hey, you gonna make any coaching changes? Well, yesterday was my favorite to Kliss. He's given tough week for my guy. Mike's my guy.
Yeah. I
I
love
know
Mike.
everyone gets after Mike, but don't let the Twitter stuff fool you, man. Sometimes he's trolling y'all.
Yeah. You
But
just have to laugh
no,
at Mike.
yeah,
Honestly, that's
Mike's my dude. Mike's been very good to me in my come up, but no, he's had a tough week. So Mike
yeah.
Kliss, asks Coach Fangio, you gonna thinking about any changes, more or less? I'm paraphrasing, and Fangio kind of stops and was like, well, what kind of changes are you talking about? And kind of challenges him, right? And you're kind of like, ooh, okay. And Mike's like, oh, maybe something with the coaches or inspiring football, something that. And Vic's just like, no. We always want to inspire our players. Kind of a Belichickian
Yeah.
moment, if you will, but it's a disconnect for sure.
Yeah, and it would be to bring it back. It would be tough to train Tim Patrick because he is really good. But I think Broncos this offseason, we're already in the offseason talk. Everybody's on their own in the Shermer scheme.
Week 7, and we're heading into week 8. We haven't even
Yeah,
got to our bye. I know we're on a
I know.
mini bye, and the good news, and I've seen it all week, and it is kind of funny. And I'm a child, so I'll just say it is. Broncos country's like, oh, the good news is we're not going to lose on Sunday. That's where
Yeah,
we're at, man.
yeah. But always looking forward, always looking how we can improve this team long term. And you do have bubbling questions, and that's why we're here, right? To pick these apart. But like Tim Patrick versus Cortland Sutton, who can you pay? How are you paying them? To me, even though Cortland Sutton's like 80%, it's pretty easy to see he is the more dynamic player in space, more acrobatic in the air, better after the catch kind of thing. Tim Patrick is really good. But if you can't pay both, and you're planning to be aggressive this offseason as well, meaning that you'd lose a compensatory pick for Tim Patrick walking, then maybe you should think about getting that package for him earlier this year with a trade package.
It's tough when teams are able to predict you. You're so
Yeah.
predictable. We knew that about the offense. It's something that US Dave is getting into, saying when the opposition can outguess you. Wow. Does not even outcoach or out scheme, but outguess you. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what you run. Kind of like, oh, I don't know, that running back Johnson, still can't even
Yeah.
get his first name right. Running for it on a third down with a draw, a halfback draw. Are you kidding me? That's kind of what that play. This comment by US Dave, our guy, kind of makes me think immediately. He's exactly right. I
Yeah.
mean, it does not matter with the defense right now. They're bleeding as well. So special teams, abysmal.
Hey, we got the
Offense,
block. We got the block field goal, right? Hats off to
Shelby,
Shelby Harris.
baby,
Let's do
Shelby.
it.
Shelby made his appearance felt. Also got that sack at 1.5, I think, actually.
Yeah. Good second
Um,
quarter.
So yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's just so predictable. And our guy Charlie Beagle's been weighing in all night. I've been trying to get to him. Run, pass, punt, and that's exactly it. It almost feels like Shermer's sometimes calling, to a detriment, if you will, those running plays, always on first down. And then you see Kevin Stefanski with the JV squad, Case Keenum, the wind's blowing 25, 30 miles an hour, march down the field and just, I'm not even going to say punch. I'm going to get violent because it's Halloween. Stab Vic Fangio's defense in the throat. I mean, it was just absolutely disgusting to see. The players, they looked confused. They looked, oh, this is us. And I was waiting for a fight. I really was, because I'm like, okay, are we so mad we're going to start fighting each other now? We're just fighting each other at practice. And no, I'm not advocating for one, but it was disgusting to see from the Browns and Case Keenum. I mean, Vic Fangio's defense is better than that, and it really bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Kevin Stefanski, probably one of the better offensive minds in football right now, a Gary Kubiak disciple and via a Mike Shanahan disciple, and really giving me some uh, early 2000s Broncos vibes where they're running who knows who at running back. Didn't matter, 100-yard rusher. And, I guess the king or the disciple, or he's a disciple of running backs don't matter. It doesn't matter if your running back is out there, if your offensive line is dominating like the Browns were at the point of attack. It's easy to make a little bit of excuses for the Broncos given short week, all these new linebackers. And I think the scheme also, Fangio changed the scheme somewhat after Jewell went down because he's trying to keep Justin Strnad as clean as possible because Strnad at the point of attack is just getting obliterated. I guess there's no other word for it. So it's tough. I mean, nobody can be prepared for losing the linebackers as much as the Broncos have, especially on a short week. But you still got to go out there and play and try to overcome it.
It's tough. We got to see what the Broncos are going to do. Time will tell. Speaking of time, you guys are watching MHI. He's Nick Kendell at Nick Kendell MHH. I'm Luke Patterson at Luke Patterson LP. This is MHI on your Saturday night. Jason is weighing in, asking our opinion on if we think George Paton is going to go off in free agency and spend some money. Broncos have some money to spend. Man, this is tough, Nick. You're right. I'm starting to notice it. We're talking about the offseason and it's week 7. That's how bad things are because Broncos are on a 4-game skid. Washington's coming in here. The Broncos should win, just like, they should have beat the Raiders without a head coach. And people just aren't trusting this team. So they're starting to try to look to the future. Well, we got a lot of money to spend. So maybe George is going to go out and spend a lot of money next year. What do you think about that, Nick? I mean, that's interesting. And I think it's worth at least mentioning.
Yeah, Broncos have, I think, the second most cash available this offseason, which is good, but also kind of concerning. You talked about it earlier. George Paton's been great in the draft front. Free agency return so far this year, the contract signing so far this year, not great. Justin Simmons, we haven't had a good return on investment yet. He'll get a chance to figure it out, but he's been not as good as we'd hoped. Shelby Harris, before this last game in that second quarter, hadn't heard much from him. Obviously, we know what's going on with Kyle Fuller. Ronald Darby's been hit or miss.
Mike Purcell's down now.
Mike Purcell as well. So the free agent signings have not been as good. I'm almost curious if we could pull a Houston trading Brock Osweiler to the Browns kind of move where we'll take somebody's bad player with a bad contract, eat some of that for some more draft capital for Peyton to play with because he seems to be a little bit better there after one offseason.
Yeah, the Ronald Darby one hangs me up a little bit right now.
Much better than Fuller.
Much better than Fuller. Didn't take a snap, right? I mean, did not take a snap. Him and Brett Rippon, right? Both riding that bench and working hard, and higher learnings, of course, weighing in. Yes, and Kyle Fuller's weighing the bench. Nick, I thought he deserved some emotional conversation, if you will, maybe a bit of a tongue lashing from his old coach, his old bay that he came over here for, but didn't think that he needed to be completely benched and not playing this game. Surely they could utilize Kyle Fuller at some point, right?
I saw somebody also asking earlier, like, oh, where's Ajim? Why haven't we seen him yet? Well, the guys who are playing 3 technique, 5 technique for the Broncos defensive line, i.e. not Mike Purcell, haven't been injured yet. So if you had an injury there, you'd see one of those guys. It's the same with we wouldn't see Strnad right now if you hadn't had those injuries there. It just could have easily have been the interior defensive line. So I'm not as upset or concerned about it. And while it's not a great use of resources with Fuller on the bench, if you can flip him for even, maybe you get back that 7th round pick you just sent off or a 6th round pick if you eat some of the cap, that would be great. I'm sure somebody is looking for a body there that he does have some experience and can help them. And you have Ojemudia coming back too. So even less reps out there, and you want to get Ojemudia on the field to see if he can come in and be somebody who can contribute going forward. So Fuller's he's probably the most likely guy to be traded this off or with the trade deadline coming up.
Ooh, I like that. I haven't even thought about that. And you know what's funny, Nick, is you kind of connected a couple dots for me because I've been thinking, I feel like Jerry Jones, right? I've been thinking a lot about it in the shower. No, I've been thinking about it all the time. That comment from George Payton that we heard in the preseason, everyone wrote it up. George Payton's trying to sell cornerbacks. He's trying to sell cornerbacks. Yeah, we're getting calls. Corner's a premium position, I think is exactly what he said. So Kyle Fuller on the trade block. That's interesting. That might be something to watch, Broncos country. Remember, you heard that speculation. If that happens, you heard that here on MHI because I like that. I think that's a realistic possibility. And Tez is weighing in here, and I think that's a good question because it talks a little bit about something, Nick, that we haven't really touched on yet. And he's asking, why do you guys think Teddy's isn't the answer? Our offensive line has been getting him killed. Plus, he doesn't have the same receivers that he did in the first 3 games. We've talked receivers. We've talked Teddy versus Drew. We talked a little bit about Quinn Miners getting back in the game, but the offensive line, Nick, remember when we were talking about the offensive line being, one of the best in the NFL, maybe the best in the AFC West? What happened to those conversations, man? Where did we go?
Yeah, they've definitely underperformed. You'd hope you'd have a better unit with Mike Munchak there, and the amount of investments the Broncos have had. I know people scream about the Broncos not investing in the offensive line, but you have 3 top 100 picks there, 1 first-round pick in Garrett Bowles, a top 5, top 10 paid guard, and you also had another highly paid guy who got injured right after the draft, so really makes it hard for you to adjust for that. I think Massey has played admirably, all things considered. You guys can tell his wife that so she doesn't at me on Twitter. Sorry.
Did you get in trouble on Twitter? Did you start a fight with Bobby Massey's wife or what?
I just said that Max Crosby was taking it to him because he was. And
because he was.
Massey's wife didn't appreciate that, but I was like,
that's always great, dude, when you get like the family members coming after you, man.
It's not personal. I'm sorry.
No, it's never personal. And you're right. I mean, Mad Max, dude, the guy is tearing people.
Yeah, got beat.
He's tearing people up. And here's what I'll say about Bobby Massey. Like, talk about the answer, right? We're talking about who's the answer at quarterback, who's the answer at head coach. We don't know. We don't have an answer at right tackle right now either, but Bobby Massey plays football. He shows up every day. He's not Jawan James. He's not, any Menelik Watson, any of those guys. He's better, but man, he's having a tough time, and I don't blame him. I'm not so sure Pat Shermer puts him in the best position, all things considered. And Mike Munchak, yes. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. Chris Cooper as well, but man, you cannot leave these guys out on an island. I mean, if you thought that Myles Garrett was bad, wait till you get a load of Chase Young, on either side, left or right. And Garrett Bowles, of course, got himself. And did you see that compliment / diss from Myles Garrett on Garrett Bowles after the game? That was weird too. Like, oh, you did great if holding is all you can do. It's like, ooh, bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting held like crazy, but thank God for the NFL, they're not calling that every play. It's like Von Miller, back 5 years ago. I wanted to get more to this question from Tez because I have people saying, oh, you don't criticize Teddy enough, blah, blah, blah. This is a perfect opportunity to add some nuance and some criticism to Teddy Bridgewater. He's talking about the offensive line getting Teddy Bridgewater killed. Well, sacks are not just an offensive line stat, and same with pressures, everything like that. It's also a quarterback stat. Credit, it's a double-edged sword, but some credit to Teddy Bridgewater for hanging tough in the pocket. But that is a reason that he is the most pressured quarterback in football. I think he's the 4th highest in time to throw. Part of that is lacking the type of quick open weapons. So Teddy's hanging onto the ball. And some of it is I don't think Teddy trusts his arm as much to hit some of those tight window throws or throw guys open. So he hangs onto the ball a little bit longer until they are obviously open or they've hit the turnaround route. So some of that is on the offensive line for getting him killed. But Teddy's also struggling and needs to be better. And maybe those limitations in his game that everybody talked about, the arm talent, et cetera, are limiting this team. But I mean, we knew that this bed was made after the Broncos passed on Fields at 9 and Mac Jones at 9, that this is probably was going to be if you were playing Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock lost out.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. And, I feel like Jules in Pulp Fiction, right? Allow me to retort. Shane Daniels weighing in, just saying, look, man, he's got a concussion. That's not right. He can make decent throws down the field, but there are lots of times receivers are wide open and they either slowing down, they have to stop, and they're trying to prevent the defense from intercepting it. And that makes a lot of sense. I think that kind of supports your theory and your assessments of Teddy Bridgewater Bridgewater's play. And you're exactly right. Drew Lock does have that better arm. And that's where the Drew Lock fans, the stands, can come in and say, look, man, Drew can throw a better ball. Yes, Drew can throw a better ball, but is he going to make the right decision? That's the tough thing. That's something that Fangio does not trust him with right now. I think Pat Shurmur, if you caught him in a dark room with a couple cold pops, maybe a cigar, maybe he'd say, yeah, you know what? Until Teddy gets better, let's roll with Drew, because Pat loves to spread it out with Drew, even though we don't think he should do it. But yeah, you've got a Teddy Bridgewater that's still, he cleared concussion protocol. Okay. He's got that hamstring, ankle, foot. Man, he probably at this point in his career needs those circumstances to be as close to perfect as they can be to get that optimal performance from Teddy Bridgewater. Otherwise, you're going to start to see that nosedive, which we're probably in right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The formula has not held up to its end of the bargain, right? Top 3 defense, Teddy Bridgewater controlling the football and a good rushing attack. Well, the Broncos aren't rushing the football very well down to down. Maybe their average is high from some explosive runs, but they've got to be close to the bottom in the NFL in terms of tackles for loss or stuffs at the line of scrimmage from their opposing team. And some of that is other teams of stacking the box. Some of that is the offensive line just being a little bit too finesse inside. With that, the formula is losing. And because of that, you're going to need Teddy to play better than what we probably should have expected from him. But it's unfair. And shout out to Shane and Peter coming in with the stars here. You guys are awesome. Shane and Peter, you guys getting in there for that Patrick Surtain jersey. And you guys can be like them and get those stars in and get a chance to win that sleek number 2 jersey for PS2. Peter Middleton comes in and says, name our inside linebackers this week. It's changing every week. Yeah, Micah Kaiser to the IR after hurting his hand. Right now, I think it's Curtis Robinson and the likes of Justin Strnad. I'm guessing the Broncos are going to bring in somebody at linebacker. You're not playing this Sunday, so you have an extra week. They have to bring in somebody at the linebacker position because right now, I mean, you're getting killed. Right? It's linebackers. You can find linebackers the offseason, but when you're getting injured as the Broncos are, other teams are going to identify that weakness, run at you, use tight end screens like we saw this week, scheme you up that first drive, and from there it's rough. So I don't even know. They're going to bring in somebody. They have to.
Yeah, they got to have some tryouts. They got to start making some calls. You can see Peyton kind of going after the pass rusher today, getting that pass rusher and Stephen Weatherly. For anybody that missed it, the Denver Broncos did make a trade with the Minnesota Vikings. Shocker, I know, right? To get a pass rusher, Stephen Weatherly. I think he's a 6-7 year vet. We sent over a 7th rounder. And no, we got a 7th rounder.
We sent a 2022 7 and got back a 2023 7. So there's obviously a little bit of value for the Vikings because you get more value the year of, and it starts to fall off there. But really, I mean, not a big trade. Just getting some bodies there, getting some depth. And Weatherly, Wake Forest, I actually did like him coming out as a guy who could make the league. Really good athlete, long.
Vanderbilt.
Not much built. Vanderbilt, excuse me. I knew it was one of those black and
it was cool. Hey, where is Wake Forest, by the way? I was having this conversation. Where is it?
North Carolina.
Is it? Okay.
Yep. North Carolina.
Where's Vanderbilt. Okay. All right. College football. Where's the Citadel? Where's that at?
Oh God.
Is it Philly?
No, Citadel, I think is Virginia or Tennessee. It's Tennessee.
Scotts Point, Tennessee.
There we go. Yeah, for sure. Citadel, Tennessee. I think it's a military school. Man, Joe Spaeth coming in. I think Joe came in last night as well. So thank you so much, Joe.
What's up, man? Dude, what? Talk about a dedicated fan, man. He's coming in here right at the twilight hour, man, of the show. Absolutely love it, Joe. Thank you very much for your support. And he's saying, hey, guys, I know I'm a little late to the show. That's all right. You're never late to the show, man. We appreciate your support. He wants to know, do we think Jonathan Cooper has surpassed Malik Reed yet? I like Malik Reed's effort, but it just feels like he's not athletic enough. Appreciate you guys. Wow, Joe, what better way to end the show? We have not talked about Jonathan Cooper at all. I love the question. Do we think Jonathan Cooper surpassed Malik Reed yet? I don't know about that, but I love the effort I saw out of the young guy. You've got to see more Coop coming up in the next few weeks. What do you make of that question?
Yeah, I don't think he's surpassed Malik Reed yet. There is something to be said about the assignments and schemes, and Malik Reed for an edge rusher is pretty good in coverage. He can drop back and do some stuff there. So I don't think he's surpassed him yet, but you do want to see some more Jonathan Cooper going forward. You still have another year of control left with Malik Reed going forward, but Cooper's the guy who looks more dynamic in that game, and hopefully you can see him there some more. And appreciate you as well, Joe. Thank you so much for the shout out, and hope you have a great weekend.
The Citadel is in South Carolina. We're getting corrections on that. Our guy, Charlie Beagle, man. Charlie Scott's on it. Charlie's on it. The rest of Broncos country's on it. And guys, man, it's 7:00. This hour goes so quick. Let's get to a couple more comments before we get y'all out of here. Zebulon, our guy, is coming in. Good to see you, Zebulon. Asking what happens if Drew finally gets in the last few games and the team starts to win, just like his 4-1 rookie record 2 years ago. Interesting question. We're already talking about the offseason. Let's talk about the rest of the year, because that's a really interesting take, Zebulon. Man, what if Drew gets in and goes on a little bit of run at the end of the year? Is it too little too late, or does George Paton possibly take another look?
I mean, I am somebody who thinks that if you say quarterback wins is a stat, you should blast yourself to the moon. Wins are a team stat, not the quarterback. Obviously, a quarterback can help you win, but I hate how people put them on quarterbacks when, if you watch the game, you can get the context and really decide if a quarterback was the reason that team won or lost or not. But I think that would be interesting this year. As I say that, an aside would be the Broncos don't have a cakewalk after the bye week even. But I think the last 5 games incorporate the Lions. That's a game you should win, but also the Bengals, who are playing pretty well. The team that's right now looking like they're going to be in the playoffs. The Chargers on the road, the Raiders on the road, and the Chiefs at home. If you go 4-1 in those games with how this team has looked so far, I would need to see how it looks. But something went right, and we'd have to at least reevaluate our decision with the quarterback going forward. And maybe it's another season like this one where you bring in somebody and Lockett's another chance to compete. But I don't think you'd crown him going 4-1 unless he was out there, obviously being the reason they won.
You know what's better than 4-1 is 6-1. My record on the pick'em at milehighhuddle.com. It's like the first time this has ever happened ever. So I'm trying to brag as much as I can before I start picking wrong and just go on a skid mark, just like the Denver Broncos, man. 4 games in a row.
Yeah,
lost.
Breaking news here. Breaking news. Luke goes on the IR for injuring his shoulder for patting himself on the back too hard.
I would never get hurt, ever. And they would never shelf me like that, ever. They can't. Yeah, no, they try. Trust me. No, you guys are the best, man. We had such a live and spirited show. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better about things because I know I'm not alone. I know the rest of Broncos country is frustrated. I know that there are some players out there, and we did highlight some, right? We talked about Jonathan Cooper at the end. We talked about Shelby Harris. We didn't get into Javonte a whole ton or Melvin Gordon because, well, we didn't really run the ball that much. We talked some O-line, some D-line. Pat Surtain did okay. This team has a lot of improvements moving forward. But, Nick, these Saturdays, they always go so quick here on MHI.
Yeah, they always do. Hopefully everybody has a good rest of your weekend. And maybe we need to start dishing out some a report card or something from some of these college football games because the Broncos keep losing. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking some more NFL draft. And I know we'll get some eye rolls from the people in the comments section, rightfully so. But right now, if you're picking top 10, looks like it should be an edge rusher or a cornerback. Here we go again, Broncos country. But guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. I know we got things to do. It is Saturday night. And Luke's got a hot date, so we gotta go.
Date. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't have to work tomorrow. It's like the first time in weeks, months that I don't have to work tomorrow with the Broncos. So
enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna actually try to enjoy some of the festivities. And Steve coming in real quick saying, if I was George Paton, I would use my free pass and not do a thing. Better draft picks while purposefully tanking. I don't think tanking is in this franchise's DNA. I think they might just lose out on their own if we're being completely honest. But guys, I know it's absolutely insane out there, but be good to each other. We're frustrated just like you, but good times have to be coming soon because it does not get much worse than this. Guys, stay tuned as well. I think the Huddle Up Boys will be back tomorrow on Sunday night. Remember, Mile High Huddle, we've got a show every single night. Nick was on Dove Valley Deep Divers last night. You can catch him and Scott on Broncos for Breakfast in the mornings. Nick is also on Tuesdays. The guy is everywhere on the mic with Carl with Building Building the Broncos, rather. And Carl, what's up, man? Welcome back. I'm so glad he's back. I got to catch up with that guy. If you are watching us on Facebook, become a supporter. If you're watching us on YouTube, we really appreciate the support as well. Do not forget to get your swag on at huddleuppod.com. Grab yourself an MHI hat. Grab yourself a Broncos for Breakfast hat, a Building the Broncos hat. We got everything that you could possibly want. I know the holidays are coming up, so get those orders in because I see them all over the Mile High City. Absolutely love and appreciate your support. Nick, I had a blast, man. I'm feeling better. Feeling good.
Yeah, I'm glad we could exercise those demons. You guys were not going anywhere, so we'll see you next time. Everyone have a great rest of your Saturday night. No stress Sunday tomorrow. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.